Thinking about moving to Ecuador? From perfect weather to dirt cheap living, this country has it all. But there's a dark side you need to know about. What is making so many expats flood in, while at the same time so many are running away? We talk about this and more on the 5 pros and 5 cons to living in Ecuador. Welcome to what is the monks or nuns lookout point here in Cuenca, Ecuador. Today I bring to you the 5 pros and 5 cons of living here in Ecuador as an expat. Pro number 1 of living in Ecuador is having the variety of climates to choose from, whether it be from the coast where you can have a warmer climate where it doesn't go much below 70 degrees. In Ecuador, you can also choose going to the Amazon, which is going to be the rainiest, the most humid, and probably the hottest of the entire country. Pro number 2 of living in Ecuador is being able to live a high quality of life. It's incredibly affordable here. You can rent a 2-bedroom apartment for like $600-700. I have a 1-bedroom apartment for less than $400 a month. Transportation, if you're taking the bus, costs literally cents on the dollar. You're going to find local great lunches for $2-3 on average. Nicer places $3, $4, $5. And of course, if you want Western food, it's going to be a bit more expensive. However, in general, the quality of the food is great and the price is incredibly affordable. Pro number 3 about living in Ecuador as an expat is the expat communities. They are thriving in some of the larger cities, specifically in Cuenca. This is probably one of the biggest in terms of percentage overall of the population. When we're talking about the massive capital city, Quito, there are tons of expats there. There are a bunch of expats in Manta, in that coastal city. And there are so many little towns, villages, Ayampe, Montañeta, places even nearby here, Lojas, and these other smaller cities in the mountains or on the coast or even in the jungle. Being able to connect with other foreigners who are living in Ecuador is quite easy, especially if you're in the bigger cities. Pro number 4 living in Ecuador is going to be the rich history and the culture of the people. The people are just so incredibly friendly, and their history is just so interesting. The way that the country was formed and its history with Gran Colombia. And you'll find a bunch of historical artifacts with the ancient civilizations that also have their presence still here. You'll be able to go to some of the archaeological sites. There's a bunch of spots just within Cuenca, but you can go throughout the entire country and see tons of different examples. The new cathedral, which is next to the old cathedral in the downtown area, the Parque Calderon, and also the Pumapungo, which is the archaeological site I just mentioned. Those are just 2 small examples of things you can check out within Cuenca. Pro number 5 of living in Ecuador is going to be the incredibly high quality healthcare that's available in this country. We're talking about a tiny country with a lot of different options. Here, Cuenca is one of the best. It has some of the best hospitals in the entire region, in the entire country. Places like Santa Inés and Hospital del Rio, these are just top-notch hospitals you can find in just Cuenca itself. And going to the hospital and seeing a doctor will cost in between $20 and $50, depending on what kind of hospital you're going to. And this is without insurance. This is particularly attractive for people that are interested in having this type of access to good quality healthcare while they are living their lives outside of the United States. I've talked to Mike Triggs, I've talked to other people, and they generally say almost always that so much cheaper to pay in cash out of pocket without insurance than it is to even pay with the US insurance and deductibles. It's still going to cost you less. Con number 1 of living in Ecuador is going to be that a lot of the major cities are actually in the mountains. We're talking about Quito, we're talking about Riobamba, Ambato, Cuenca. A lot of the cities are located at areas that are, above 2,000 meters, up to 3,000 meters. And people that have any type of lung problems or breathing problems are not going to find this comfortable at all. One really specific example of this will be Don Shader. This is going to be the grumpy old gringo who lives in Manta. He chose Manta, guess what? For this exact reason. If you have any type of lung condition, this will probably make living in Ecuador a bit more problematic. Con number 2 is going to be that Spanish will be actually quite necessary to get certain tasks and certain things done in Ecuador. There is a lot of English spoken, sure, in the bigger cities, especially Cuenca. However, doing things such as paying the electric bills, the utility bills, ordering food, going to local markets, and if you want the local markets with, good quality, low cost fruit and vegetables. Keep in mind, a lot of people here don't even speak Spanish as their first language because a lot of the Andean mountain areas, specifically Ecuador, Peru, and Bolivia, that area has so many types of the indigenous communities, and they speak here Quechua. I speak Spanish, and when I hear them speak, I'm like, oh, their Spanish doesn't sound very native, and their first language is actually Quechua or other native languages. Con number 3, and the probably most common complaint you'll hear and see on YouTube and all the social media platforms is going to be the problem with the energy grid, the energy system here in Ecuador, and the fact that there are so many blackouts happening due to the weather. If you're coming down in the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years, and there is more extreme weather, you could expect from 3, 6, 9, 12, 14 hours of blackouts. Most of the energy system is based on the hydroelectric dams. These blackouts, especially if you're a digital nomad like me, make living here very complicated. That's going to be a massive con for anyone that wants to and has to use the internet. Con number 4 of living in Ecuador, going to be the safety concerns and the worries about being in a place with no danger issues. In general, Ecuador is a safe place. I don't feel in danger at all. I never did. The coastal regions is supposedly the most dangerous, but the type of danger we're talking about generally is going to be petty crime. If you leave your phone somewhere, someone could grab it. Ecuador has had a spike in danger, actually homicides. This has mostly been due to the drug dealers, and they're fighting amongst themselves. So when you see these big statistics, usually it's because one drug gang or cartel is fighting the other and they get into scuffles, they kill each other. Here in Cuenca, if you are to live here, this is going to be a spot where you could probably avoid most of the negative news. Con number 5, and the final con of our list, is going to be the culture shock and the type of noise and air pollution that you're maybe not used to if you're coming from North America, maybe the United States or Canada. It's going to be lots of party, fireworks going up, music being played. People will be doing lots of construction during inconvenient hours. If you're in a big city like Guayaquil, even Cuenca here, if you're in Quito, there's going to be industrial areas. For example, here in Cuenca, we are in a valley, and being that it's a valley, it's kind of an area that traps pollution, and there's an industrial area on the eastern side near the airport. If you live in the suburbs of America and you're used to really strict rules about you can't make noise after a certain time, you can't do this, you can't do that. The type of rules and the way that people follow them are so different here that if you are not used to this type of culture, you're going to have some massive culture shock. If you're coming down here, you have to embrace it and enjoy it. But if you're not that type of person, well, this might be the biggest con for you.